Hi there, I am just trying to do a quick video here to talk about factoring as we take out greatest common factors. So on the practice sheet you guys were given last week, you had some example problems where you were supposed to take out the GCF, so I'm just going to go through the odd problems real quick just to make sure everybody's on the same page here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just basically going to be doing the odd problems so that we understand it. So as far as taking out the common factor, you've got to look at the common factors of the numbers and of the variables. What I notice in this problem is that they are both negative. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out a negative, but I also notice that they both have V's and they both have at least two V's. So I'm going to take out two V's. Now whenever I do the GCF, since there are two terms here, there needs to be two terms here. Okay, so two terms. When I take this out of this term, what I'm left with is only one V left because I took the negative out and I took out two V's, so I have one V left. And I took that negative out, so I've got a plus, and I still have a 2, but on this term here I got rid of V squared, so it's gone. So there's only a 2. And that's all you do for number 1. Okay, so we're going to move on to number 3. That was a weird 3 there. So in order to talk about this one, I'm just going to switch methodologies here just a little bit. I'm noticing that 9 seems to be a number that's going to go into both of those, so I'm just going to break it up a little bit. I know that 18 is 9 times 2. So all I did was I changed 18 into 9 times 2. And I know that 63 is 9 times 7. And since I've got an x squared right there, I'm going to just write it as x times x. So what I'm going to be doing is to take a GCF out. I am basically writing down everything that the two terms have in common. So notice that they both have a 9, so I'm going to write down a 9, and I'm going to scratch out the 9. They both have at least one x, so I'm going to scratch out the x and write it down. And now I just write down everything that's left. Notice in this first term, the only thing left was a 2. So I'm going to write down a 2. And in this term, the only thing left is a 7 and an x, so I'm going to write 7x. And I'm done with that one. Alright. Number 5. Notice that 8 and 9 have actually no common terms. So let me write this as, x squared has 2 x's. Alright, and so now I'm trying to say, okay, since the numbers have nothing in common, I'm going to shift my gaze over to the variables and notice that they both have at least one x. So I'm going to write that down and scratch it out and write down what's left. And you're done. Alright, number 7 here. I've got 3 terms. That means that when I pull out a GCF, I'm still going to have 3 terms in the parentheses. Okay? So I'm noticing, I'm looking at 16, 32, and 40. And it looks like the biggest number is going to be 8. So I'm going to break things up a little bit. Alright, so I've got 8 times 2, that makes 16, right? And then 8 times 4, and 8 times 5. Alright, you notice how I made sure that n squared is n times n, and n cubed is n times n times n. And all I did was I broke up the 16, the 32, and the 40. So now I'm going to write down everything that they have in common. So I've got an 8. So I'm going to write down an 8, scratch out the 8. I notice that they all have at least one n. So I'm going to write that down and scratch it out. And now I'm just going to write down everything that was left over. I've got a 2. And the plus, of course. I've got a 4. I've got an N. I've got a 5. I'll circle that plus just to make sure everybody's clear on that. I've got a 5. And I got 2 N's, which makes n squared. And that is how you do number 7. Alrighty. Number 9. I'm looking at 35, 56, and 72. And what pops to my mind is 7. Because 35, the only thing that'll make 35 is 7 times 5. And with that clue, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is 7 times 8, and this is 7 times 6. So I'm just going to break it up by saying 7 times 5 and 5 n's. 7 times 8 and 4 n's. 7 times 6 and 2 n's. Now once you get used to it, you don't have to be writing all these n's and all these factors. You'll be getting used to just pulling it out, period. So what do I have in common? Well, I've got a 7, and notice that they all have at least 2 n's. So what I'm going to do is say, okay, they have 7n squared in common. I'm going to scratch out that, and I'm going to be writing everything that was left over. Got a 5. I got 3 n's. Don't forget the minus there. Got the 8, 2 n's, the minus, and the 6. And that's how you pull out common factors, and we will continue to practice this, but we do have to continue looking at other methods of factoring. So make sure that you ask lots of questions, and feel free to send me messages on Remind or whatever you need. Talk to you later. Bye.